Today we're talking about coverage reads, and they're coverage reads for the quarterback, for the coaches, for anybody interested in understanding how coverages work and how to attack certain coverages. Before we start, it's important to understand that the read is based on two things. It's based on the type of pass it is, and it's based on the type of play it is, and the coverage that you're working against. And so the classes of types of plays is you have now game, which is catch and throw. That's mostly bubble screens and things that work against all-out blitz. You have the quick game, which is traditionally called a three-step under center, or catch, set, and throw if you're in shotgun. Then you have five-step, you have boot waggle, and you have seven-step. So the reads are going to be based on the type of play it is, and then the coverage that you're working against. We're going to define a few terms. When we say cover zero, we're talking about zero men free. There's only 11 guys, so there's 5 pass defenders and 6 rushers. That's an all-out blitz. People can run negative coverages where they leave a guy uncovered. It's a little risky. We've done it. So we're not going to talk about that too much. Cover one is one man free and man coverage underneath, and that's a bring 5. So if you have a 5-man protection and they're bringing 5, everybody has to win. If you have a 6-man protection and they're bringing 6, everybody has to win. We make some changes when it comes to that. Cover 2 is traditional cover 2. Today we're going to talk about landmark drop cover 2. We're going to talk about hard 2 and soft 2, where the corners are rolled up. They're the flat defender. You have cover 3. Now cover 2, first of all, let me go back real quick. Cover 2 is a 2 safety look, and it's where the middle of the field is open. And then we talk about that, middle of the field open or middle of the field closed. Cover 3 is a single safety look where the safety is in the middle, in between the uprights, and then we call that middle of the field closed. You have cover 4, which is soft coverage, which is a prevent type defense where everybody takes quarters deep. And then we have cover 2 man. So those are the ones we're going to talk about. We're not talking about Tampa 2. I think I have a Tampa 2 in there today. We're not talking about cover 5, which is robber, cover 6, which is roll weak. There's a lot of different kinds of coverages. You'll break down your opponent and see the coverages they run, but we're going to talk about just the basic ones first today. All right, so when we go out, the first thing we do after the huddle's snapped, based on the play, is we're going to take a look at the safeties. And there's going to be no safeties, 1 safety, or 2 safeties. No safeties is a no deep. That's your all-out blitz look. We'll make a call for all-out blitz, and we'll have something with an N and a D, North Dakota. That's no deep. Sometimes we'll just say no deep. We have a number of things that we can do with that. That's a 6-man blitz. We're going to change the play when it comes to a 6-man blitz because not everything fits everything. And so when it's no deep, we're going to change to a now pass. When there's 1 safety, the middle of the field's closed. That's cover 3 or cover 1. It could be man or zone. When it's 2 safeties, it's the middle of the field open. It could be cover 2, it can be cover 4, it can be cover 2 man, it can be matchup, it can be roll zone to cover 3. And we're going to talk about all of those things in this. The important thing to understand, and we're going to talk about the now game first, is that everyone has a pre-snap read. People can disguise their coverage, but they can't disguise the coverage after the ball snapped. So with everything, we're going to pre-snap read, get a feel for the coverage. In fact, early in the season, we'll have our quarterbacks point at the safeties. So if there's no safeties, he's this to the wides. If there's 1 safety, he points with 1 hand. If there's 2 safeties, he points with 2 hands. We need to get the receivers and the quarterback on the same page as far as coverage goes, because our routes adjust to coverage, and we're going to talk about that too. And now it means we're going to catch and throw. We don't even have to have the laces, and we'll do we practice what we call a pepper drill, where we have 6 receivers and everybody's running into the bubble. It smokes on the outside, which is 2 steps up and 1 step back. And then everybody else is running bubble screens. And the center will snap the ball one after the other, And out of the 6, 2 have to be bad snaps. And we're not concerned with getting our hands on the laces because we've made a pre-snap read and we already know where we're going with the ball, and we're going with the ball there now. Okay, so for example, let's take a look at this first play. Here's what we look for. So we'll take a look at this is the tight end right here. We'll take a look at the wide receiver side first, the single receiver side first. And our question is, do we have 8 and 8? Is there space? Now, when what would be in zone coverage, the curled defender or the flat defender is on the line, he is not within 8 of the wide. Here the corner is off, and on the snap of the ball, he's going to backpedal. So we're saying on this one we have space. Really, all we're trying to do with the smoke route in the now game is try to get the flat defender to split the difference between the end man on line and the wide receiver. Because if we call a run, and we actually call a run on this, we have less guys in the box. If we call a run, we want to run a run, but if they force us to throw the ball, we're going to do that too. We ask ourselves, do we have 8 and 8? Here the answer is yes. So when the answer is yes, we never look anywhere else. There's plenty of space right here. What we do is we catch the ball and we flip it out to him right now. And that's why it's called now. So we catch, he bobbles it a little bit, but he still gets the ball out there in time because we have space. And all we're trying to do is make room to force them to cover the flat. We don't expect to make 15 yards on smoke. Now, the reason the screen says nope call is if this is read zone offense right here. But if the running back is on the opposite side of where the quarterback is going to throw, he has to tell the running back that there's no run on this play. If he doesn't, the running back is going to bump into him, and that creates another different problem. So we make a quick nope call. There's the nope call. Gets the elbow up, flips the ball out, makes one little simple move, and that's pretty easy money. So the first read is, do I have space? The second read is, do I have numbers? All right, so let's take a look at the first read. The first read is a single receiver side, and I take a look, and there's a corner rolled up, which means I do not have 8 and 8. Okay, so if I don't have 8 and 8, I look at the 3 receiver side. And the question is, do I have numbers? Which means, is it 2 on 3? So we have 3 receivers and only 2 defenders. This defender this overhang that's hugging the box and this safety is so far away that we have plenty of room. So here we have numbers. And this one, he doesn't have to make a nope call because the running back's in front of him, and he's going to actually step away from the read zone track. We get it out there as fast as we can. This is a perfect location. We want the running back to run through the ball. What we tell our quarterbacks is their target is the official on the sidelines. He's at the line of scrimmage. Now, let's say we have no space. So the first thing we look at, this is our first read, is the 1 receiver side, even though there's 2 here, but we have no space. The other side, we have 3 on 2, so we do not have numbers. If you don't have space and you don't have numbers, then you have the inside zone. Here you have a 5 box. Now, we'll make a box call for that, and the quarterback's job on the read zone, now, once again, they have taken away the pass, so we have to run, but we have a box that's favorable to the run. So the quarterback's read is the end man on line, is this guy right here. But when we get a box call, it means we have 5 blockers for 5 defenders. And the rule for the quarterback on the read zone, the first rule is if his shoulders are turned. If his shoulders are turned, then he's going for the running back. If his shoulders are square and he shuffle squeezes, the next read is where are his eyes? His eyes are on the running back. We're going to pull it and keep. His eyes are on the quarterback because he's the quarterback's guy. That's also the guy the quarterback is going to block. Then we're going to give. If we can occupy the edge rusher with the quarterback, then the quarterback is going to keep the ball, which is what happens here. Now, this is Brad Kaya. He holds all the passing records, the career passing records at the University of Miami. He played 3 years in the NFL, and he would throw a bad bubble before he would run. So even with a guy like Brad, if the read is correct, then you're still going to make positive yards. I think he only ran two times in this whole season. You can also run play action off of that. That's a different type of read, but sometimes that corner wants to get involved with a bubble because we throw so many of them.
and then they don't have an answer for the straight takeoff. So the first one is cover 0. Now, once again, when it's no safety, okay, and that means nobody deeper than 8. That's a magic number for us on that play. And of course, it looks like man coverage because the guy locks on and goes in motion with them. But see, if you take a look down here, there's no safeties. And if there's no safeties, it means they're bringing 6, which means you have to have a 6-man protection and you have to get rid of the ball pretty quick. This is another one. He's barely at 8, but it still looks like 0. So we still are going to have to either change the play, or if we have a play like a quick game, we can go quick game against cover 0, but we'd rather go our now game with cover 0. And we change our now routes week by week. So it's either all verts, all hitch, or all slant. And it's a one-step slant because the depth of the route has to be timed with the depth of the drop. So if it's a now pass, we're going now. We're making our break now. If it's a quick pass, 3-step drop, we're making it on our 3rd step. And you can go second inside, second outside, still gives you your 3rd steps. And some of the stuff we do, we count steps. Some of the stuff we do, we count yards. Okay, so let's play this through. That's what cover 0 looks like. Everybody's manned up, and here comes 6. If you don't have an answer for all-out blitz, this kind of stuff happens. It's like if you don't have an answer in the short yardage, that kind of stuff happens. The next thing we get into is cover 1, or single safety, the middle of the field closed. Now, middle of the field closed can be cover 3 or cover 1, and cover 1 is 1-man free. So the first thing we do is count the safeties. The second thing we do is look at the demeanor of the corners. And the third thing we'll do is look at the spacing of the linebackers. So if you look at the demeanor of the corners, even though this is in the red zone, if the guy is going to play cover 3, he's going to be off. He's going to be off at 6 to 8. And if he's rolled up or pressed up, then that's an indicator that it's man coverage, not zone coverage. And the safety is still free. The next thing we would look at is the spacing of the linebackers. And if you take a look here, there's only one in the box, and he's spaced out where he's got the tight end, and he's looking right at the number 2 receiver, which tells us this is man coverage. That means 5 are coming. If you have a 5-man protection, that means everybody's got to win their battle. Here it is. Here's another one. Same thing. This looks like cover 1, and those guys are locked up. They turn their back to the ball. Generally speaking, for the corners, if they're off and slightly outside or slightly inside, that's a zone look. If they're up and they're not looking at the quarterback at all, they're looking just at the receiver, especially if their back is to the ball. So if they're inside press, that's it. They're not playing cover 3 from inside press. They would have to be way faster than their opponent. And so this, we don't even have to look at the spacing of the linebackers because we can tell by the corners that this is a man cover defense. This is cover 1. Okay, now we get into cover 2. Our routes change based on coverage. But basically, cover 2 is the middle of the field's open, and the corners are within 6, and they can play at 4, they can squat at 4, they can press, but they're going to be outside leverage because against cover 2, there's a side pocket right here that is difficult for the safety to play into. So in standard landmark drop cover 2, these corners' job is to funnel number 1 inside so the safety has a chance to get to the boundary, because this is the flat defender in cover 2. Okay? In cover 3, the outside linebacker is the flat defender. Cover 2, corners the flat defender. And with most of the stuff that we do, we're going to read the flat defender first. But we definitely have to identify who is the flat defender. If it's man coverage, there's no flat defender because it's man coverage. So we're talking about something different. Now in the quick game, the 3-step drop, the route would be slant by number 1. We're always going to say the outside guy first, and a flat route by number 2. And when this is if the middle of the field was closed. The middle of the field is open, so I'm going to show you that next. If the middle of the field is closed, our read is the flat defender. There'd be a outside linebacker right here, and the corner would be off. And the trajectory of that slant is to split the deep coverage. So he's headed towards the hash marks. This is not that. So this ends up being the middle of the field open. So when the middle of the field's open, we're going to change that. If we run slant flat, then the flat runner is going to run right into a defender, like this defender, against cover 2. So it's ineffective because the curl defender can easily get underneath the slant. So instead of trying to run one size fits all, we're going to run double slant on this. And double slant is a pretty easy read. The read is on the curl defender, which would be this guy right here. And the question for the read is, does he do anything except turn and run? So in other words, if you can see his back numbers, his big numbers, then he's running right now to the flat, which means the inside slant would be open. If he does anything but that, for example, tries to collision or maintain inside leverage on number 2, then the corner, who has to protect the depth also, plus he's way off, has no answer for a flat slant. We don't run that with the same trajectory of split the defensive coverage because he'll run right into a safety. Remember, there's 2 safeties instead of 1. So this ends up being a converted route. It converts to double slant, and your read is one guy right here, and all you got to do is make sure he doesn't run to the outside slant. So whichever way he goes, we're going to make one guy wrong, and that's your read. So here it's easy money. He comes, and look at the space. Easy money. And then if you got a guy that can run fast, big things happen. We don't go out there anticipating that that's going to be a touchdown right there. We're trying to make first downs, and if we break one, we break one. Now, they can play hard 2. We see a lot of hard 2 because we've run a lot of bubble screens. That's where the corner is rolled up. This is soft 2. It's almost like a cover 4. So if 1 and 2 go vertical, the corner is going to lock on. Actually, in cover 2, the corner, if 1 and 2 go vertical, he's got to lock on number 1 because the safety will be occupied. That's just how that defense works. And this is all verts right here. And the guy we're reading in all verts is the middle safety defender. We're just going to make him wrong. And on this one, our quarterback was wrong. He really should have thrown to the inside guy. But either way, the safety was over the top. Okay, on this one, we come up, and sometimes we'll find an uncovered. And when you find an uncovered, you have to take advantage. If there's a mistake in the coverage, you have to take advantage of the mistake in the coverage. Okay, we use hand signals. If they are uncovered, even if they're not uncovered, they're going to nod. They're going to look inside the quarterback on their third step in case the quarterback has decided to go to them right now, which is what happens here. So the overhang is tight. We have 2 uncovereds. He hesitates a little bit there. To me, number 2 would have been the guy to go to. So what was his read? With uncovered receivers, there's no read. He already knows where he's thrown to. It's just like a now route. Sometimes cover 2 is cover 2 man. And cover 2 man is a prevent defense. You see it a lot in passing leagues in the summer, those kind of things, 7-on-7 tournaments. How do we identify the difference between 2 and 2 man? All right, if this was cover 2, this guy would be off and inside. He's the curl defender. He's the flat defender. He could be press, but he's more likely going to be at 4 to 6 and squat this. Remember, the middle of the field's open, so it's a 2 shell. And now we look at the demeanor of the corners. This one is rolled up tight, looks like man. So we check the spacing of the linebackers, and he's head up looking at number 2. He's moved over to guard number 3. So this tells us man underneath and 2 deep zone over the top. And that's how you would identify that. Now, the middle of the field is closed. If you're guarding a formation, then you're going to be somewhere out of the middle. If you're guarding the field, then you're going to be in the middle. On this one, their field wide receiver is not very wide. So you're going to be a little bit off center and still cover the field because they're not using this part of the field. Really when the middle of the field is closed, it's when the safety is in between the uprights. And if you're playing on a field with goalposts, all you do is look. You can see the uprights right there. Where is there a guy in there? If there's a guy in there, the middle of the field's closed. The next thing we look at is the demeanor of the corners. If you look at the demeanor of the corners, you're going to see that this corner is off and this corner is off. So this is looking like cover 3. If we still can't tell, we're going to look at the spacing of the linebackers, and he is inside number 2. He ends up being the flat defender right here, but they're fairly evenly spaced, even though the ball is on the hash mark. So this is classic cover 3. So if we are running slant flat, quick game, then this slant would be to split the deep coverage, which is right in through here, and he would be running an arrow route. That's a crummy arrow. And the pickle is on this guy. If this guy is playing it right, he's going to get into the slant, because remember, this corner is off. He's gone. He's out of the equation. Okay? If he's going to get into the slant and force the quarterback to throw the flat route and then break on the ball and try to give the kid a headache. If he plays this wrong, then he's going to go with the flat route and the slant is open right behind him. There's no answer for that. Okay, here the middle of the field's open, and this is the next thing that can happen. When they roll their coverage, always come out in a 2 shell, and but when they want to play cover 3, they're going to roll it. There's 2 ways they can roll it. They can roll the corner up in the flat, we call that cloud, or they can roll the safety up into the flat, and we call that sky. In this case, the safety is going to roll down. He ends up being the flat defender, and we're just going to try to make him wrong. So here he rolls down. This still ends up being cover 3 from a cover 2 look. Remember, they can disguise their coverage however they want until the ball's snapped. And once the ball is snapped, then they have to play their coverage. All right, so this looks like the middle of the field's open. This looks like cover 2. So pre-snap, we're thinking this is cover 2. We're thinking also somebody else is coming because they only have 3 down linemen. But that's an offensive line thing. And pre-snap, as soon as we go in motion, they leave that corner rolled down. This is cloud. And the safety moves over, and he's a deep third defender. And the guy that's running and gets turned right there is the middle defender. First of all, we identify the safeties. Middle of field's closed. Early in the season, or early in the preseason, or the off season, our quarterbacks would point with one hand. If there was 2 safeties, they'd point with 2. That helps the receivers and quarterbacks get on the same page. If you look at the demeanor of the corners next, they are off and head up or outside. This one's a slightly bit inside, but he's pedaling outside. And the linebackers then are evenly spaced. So this tells us cover 3. Prevent, you're going to get cover 2 man or cover 4. This is another one. You can see the yard markers right here. You can see the sticks. So it's 2nd down and 20. So we're pretty sure it's going to be a deep pass. So it's quarters coverage. So he is going to be the outside quarter. He's going to be the inside quarter. He's going to be this inside quarter, and he's going to be the outside quarter on the other side. There's a lot of things that we do, and we'll get into plays on the next one, but there's a few things. One is there's no one defending the flat, and because there's only 3 underneath, there's a lot of windows for the dig, and that's what we hit right there, is just hit an easy window and make up some of that, just about get a first down on that. This is soft 2, okay, so it looks like cover 4. This would be the flat defender. And you can see that the middle of field's open and both corners are way off. So that ends up being 4 guys deep. And on this one, we're just going to run a hitch. And it's pretty easy money. And just as a quick review, we're going to start off with identifying the safeties. Then we're going to look at the demeanor of the quarterback, the corners. Does he look like he's playing man? Is he pressed? Is he inside? Is he not looking at the ball? These are all indicators of man coverage. Or is he off and looking in through the end man on the line into the backfield? That tells you he's playing zone coverage. He's still going to be able to see number one, but he's not glued on number one. Whereas here, there's no deep, and they are glued on number one. You have a 5-man rush, which is 1 deep. The demeanor of the corners tells you that it's man coverage. That means they're bringing 5. You have cover 2, which is the middle of the field open. Corners are flat defenders, and they're squatted up 4 to 6 off the line of scrimmage, usually closer to 4. You have cover 3, which is 3 deep zone. And in 3 deep zone, the middle of the field is closed. The linebackers are evenly spaced, and the corners are off. That's the difference between cover 1 and cover 3. Both have the middle of the field closed, but the corners tell you if it's zone or man. Then we have cover 4, which is all loose, which is the middle of the field's open, plus the corners are off. And that's the difference between hard 2 and cover 4, is you're playing quarters back there, not 2 deep zones. And so what's available? The flat is basically undefended, and there's big windows underneath. And there's big windows really up to 16. And this is where, you can push the roof off the coverage and then run a dig underneath it. There's different things. We'll talk about that at another time. And then we have cover 2 man. That's not all the coverages. If you are a zone not a zone option, but if you are a triple option team, under center, split back veer, those kind of things, you're going to see more cover 5. That's more of a run offense. And so we didn't really get into too much cover 5. Cover 6 as a weak roll. There's all kind of coverage. Cover 7s, 7ths, that's for red zone coverage. So there's a lot of different coverages. There's a way to find out what they're playing based on the pre-snap read. And then if you are uncertain because of movement, you have to verify on the snap of the ball. They can disguise their coverage all the way up until the ball is snapped. So that's an idea of how to begin to read coverages. It's based on the depth of the drop. It's based on the play that you're running. And then it's based on the coverage that they're running. So the first thing you do is identify the safeties, the demeanor of the quarterback, the spacing of the linebackers, and then what is the indicator based on film of their personality when they're going to blitz or when they're not going to blitz. How do they play cover 3? There's more than one way to play cover 3. Some guys maintain outside and deep. Some guys will split the 2 and play the corner inside, but still deep. There's more than one way to skin a cat on offense and defense, but we're going to spend the week putting in the reads and try to get our quarterbacks to understand the 1 to 2 to 3. All right, that's coverage reads.